grade 9, so we just finished studying World War II and how it ended. We're going to start looking at the nuclear age and the Cold War. We're going to specifically look at how there was a change in the balance of power after World War II between the Allies. And we're going to look at the rivalry that existed between the superpowers, the two superpowers, which is the United States and Russia during the Cold War. Only 2 nuclear weapons have ever been used during war, both by the United States, and it was at the end of the World War II in 1945. These bombs were dropped on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The world entered its nuclear age. The science of nuclear or atomic weapons is very complicated, but the effects of the weapons are easy to understand. Victims directly underneath the explosions were vaporized instantly. The heat was so intense that bodies got so hot they literally disappeared into thin air. Nuclear bombs have huge explosive capacities and cause very strong bomb blasts. Fire swept through the cities. The heat created was so great that clothes caught on fire on people that were 3 kilometers away from the center of the explosion. Roof tiles melted half a kilometer away. The wind speed on the ground directly beneath the explosion was 1,600 kilometers per hour, and the force of the wind flattened most buildings. The explosion released rays of nuclear radiation. Radiation poisoning killed tens of thousands of people in the cities. Deaths of radiation continued to occur for years after the explosion. The destruction caused by these bombs is possibly the reason why nuclear weapons have not been used again in warfare. I want you to watch the nuclear weapons video. I'll post the link below the video. You guys can go click on it. It is a BBC broadcast of the bombing of Hiroshima. And then I want you to type into Google atomic bombs, and I want you to watch a few videos on how the bombs were tested, where they were tested, what do they look like, what is the cause of them, what is the reaction process, just so you have a greater view of understanding. Now, describe the cloud created by a nuclear bomb. If we look at the images here, you can see that we've got Hiroshima on the right hand side, and it's not that clearly seen in this one, but it ends up creating a mushroom style cloud. This mushroom style cloud is very indicative of an atomic bomb. Unit 1. Tensions between Russia and the USA and Britain. On the left-hand side, you have 2 land masses that are highlighted in red. Those land masses are, or is, America. Okay? You've got Canada in between them that splits them a little bit, but right at the top, that little red section at the top is called Alaska, and that actually wraps around the world. If you go look at your world maps, you can go see how close Alaska is to the green side, which is on the right-hand side of your map. It looks like it's worlds away, but it's really not. It wraps right around, okay? The green land that you are looking at is not Greenland, but it is Russia in this instance. And right in between the two of them is Britain. Now, Russia and America obtained quite a large landmass, and then you have this tiny little island, Britain. Now, don't underestimate Britain. Remember, everybody is basically left Britain and colonized the rest of the world. So everybody is kind of originally an ally of Britain, and they went on to colonize quite a large part of the world, and whoever then gained their independence once they'd left Britain ended up establishing populations all around the world. So Britain does kind of look like a small little island there, but it had huge, far-reaching impacts that you do need to understand. Just because it's so tiny doesn't mean it's not powerful. the Yalta Conference in February 1945 and the division of Germany, we have our allies versus our axes that are fighting in World War II. Our allied powers represents United States of America, Britain, and France, and our axis powers is Italy, Germany, and Japan. During the war, Germany ended up invading Russia. Russia then decided to come and be part of the Allied powers, and Russia ended up helping win the war. The war ended in Europe in May 1945, where the Allied powers won. Although Italy and Germany were defeated, Japan still remained undefeated in May 1945. And a few months before that, at the Yalta Conference, the Allied powers decided that they're going to break Germany up into its 4 parts. So here is Germany. It's broken up into East Germany, and West Germany is everything else. West Germany is broken up into this pink, this orange, and this green zone. The orange, green, and pink zone is shared between the United States, Britain, and France. And the red zone, East Germany, is under the rule of Russia. Berlin is the capital of Germany, and it was also broken up into its 4 parts. The western side was for United States of America, Britain, and France, and the eastern side was for your red country, Russia. In June, Germany was divided and the government was taken over. In July, the Allied troops had moved into Berlin. Now, the Yalta Conference had 3 main people join it. You ended up having Churchill. Churchill is the British Prime Minister, and he is on the left-hand side. In the middle, we have Roosevelt. Something interesting about Roosevelt is that he was, I think he was a cripple. So you'll never see any photos of him as standing or anything. So go look at that and see what health conditions he had. Unfortunately, he ended up dying during the end of World War II, just before the Potsdam Conference occurred. And then on the right-hand side here, you end up having Stalin. Now, Stalin is the leader of Russia. At the Potsdam Conference in 17 July 1945 to the 2nd of August, were the 3 heads of states from the Allied forces that came together to discuss punishment to the defeated Nazi Germany. Now, at this conference, it was clear that tensions were increased between the Allies. There are 5 main points that we're going to discuss on why these tensions seem to have been increased. One of them is what the Soviet Union, or Russia, was occupying Central and Eastern Europe. Russian troops did not withdraw from the countries in Eastern Europe. Stalin insisted that his control of the Eastern Europe was a defensive measurement against possible future attacks from the West. The other point is that Britain had a new Prime Minister, Clement Attlee, who is now seated in that left-hand chair. During the conference, there was a general election in Britain. Churchill's party was defeated, and Clement Attlee became the Prime Minister. He deeply distrusted Stalin. The next point is that America had a new president, Mr. Harry S. Truman. You can see him being seated in that middle chair. The war was ending. The ideologies were still against each other. President Roosevelt had just died, and his vice president, Harry Truman, became the president. During the war, Roosevelt did trust Stalin, and he believed that he would not take over Eastern Europe. But with the end of the war, and then occupation of Central and Eastern Europe by Stalin, resulted in the Allied unity collapsing. Truman was much more suspicious of Stalin than Roosevelt had ever been. The fourth point is that the USA had also tested an atomic bomb. This test was done on the 16th of July 1945, and the Americans successfully tested the atomic bomb in New Mexico desert in USA. The atomic bomb is a much more powerful bomb than any other bomb, and it's also known as a nuclear bomb. Now, Churchill knew about this bomb, and Truman and Churchill agreed that the weapon should be used to defeat Japan. Truman, however, did not tell Stalin about the bomb until the 25th of July. However, Stalin already knew about the bomb because he had KGB spies that had infiltrated the group that made the bomb. And the next day, on the 26th of July, the Potsdam Declaration had been broadcasted to Japan, which threatened total destruction unless the Japanese government surrendered. Activity 1 asks you to interpret sources to draw conclusions. Please complete that and submit that for marking.